Hello guys, well, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Kobe. This is Kobe Hits. We've made a little rebranding to the YouTube platform. So today is 6th of March. Ghana is celebrating their 69th Independence Day, and I decided to do this little video to give those who don't have any idea of how we gained independence, a little bit of insight concerning how we did it. So I'm going to try and do that in the next 10 minutes. Hopefully, I am able to do it. And so yeah, let's go. Now the year is 1939 and Europe is at war again. This simply because Hitler decides to, invade Poland, which obviously starts World War II. And Britain, who has Gold Coast as a colony, decides to, mobilize her troops from the colony as well. And in return, they tell these men that they will be given, some benefits after the war. That's if they survive the war. So yeah, after they survive the war, they come back home. However, they're not given these benefits they were, promised. Some of these included accommodation, pension, salary, and all that. And Gold Coast is in a lot of turmoil after this World War II. Now let's shift our focus all the way to outside the country. After the war, self-determination has become very popular in the world, even more than how it was after World War I. So some elitists who were in Gold Coast after World War II decided to form an organization, which was to be known as the UGCC later onwards. So these men included J.B. Dankwa, Akweje, William Oforiatta, etc. And their aim was simple. They just wanted some reforms with the constitution so that in the legislative assembly, there will be some African representation as well. Now, in order for the people to also, rally behind them, they wanted someone who could actually, mobilize the crowd for the mission that they had at hand. And J.B. Dankwa came out with someone he knew who was in the United States at that time, and his name was Francis Kofi Inwia Ngoloma. Now, he later became known as Dr. Kwame Nkrumah for a lot of reasons. We don't know why he changed the Kofi to Kwame. We know he took away the Francis because he didn't want to be associated with any Christian name, but why he changed the Kofi to Kwame, we will never know. So at that time, Kwame Nkrumah, who was also in the States, was heavily into Pan-Africanism. Okay, he was an activist. And when he got a letter from the UGCC, he knew that this was an opportunity for him. So quickly, he accepted and became the Secretary General for the UGCC. Now, he's back home, okay? And you remember the people who were also not given their compensation, right? These servicemen who had gone for World War II who hadn't gotten their compensation. Yeah, those guys. They were still pissed and decided to, gather some people who were also very unhappy as a result of high rate of unemployment in the country and the country in general being in a lot of economic turmoil. They decided to make a peaceful march to the Osu Christiansborg Castle. At that time, it was known as the Christiansborg Castle, okay, on 28 February in 1948. They made that march, and unfortunately, when they approached the castle, Major Imre ordered the policemen to shoot at them. This led to the death of three servicemen who are popularly known among Ghanaians, and their names include Private Odate, Lamte, Sergeant Ajete, and Corporal Atipo. So after the death of these men, the British were thinking that how did these people, gain the courage to first and foremost, make this march to the castle? And they ended up pinpointing everything on the UGCC. So they took all the members of the UGCC into prison for some weeks, okay? And after the weeks, they were released from prison. Right from there, Nkrumah realized he had different ideology from the UGCC. As the UGCC were looking for self-government within the shortest possible time, Nkrumah was looking for self-government now. So as a result of that, in 1949, he decided to break away from the UGCC to form his own political party, which was known as the Conventions People's Party, for short CPP. After founding the CPP, he kept on, rallying the people, going ahead with his radical approach, rallying the people, leading a lot of protests and strikes. So the British were not pleased with what Nkrumah was doing, and they decided to, capture Nkrumah once more. Now they thought after doing that there would be a lot of good tempers in the country. Well, they thought wrong because there was increase in this, riots. So they decided to make a commission to investigate what was going on, and this became known as the Watson Commission, which was headed by, as you know, Watson. So the Watson Commission came about, and through their findings, they realized that the people were unhappy about how the economy was. A lot of people were, struggling in Gold Coast at that time. So because of that, the then Governor George Christie decided to charge Henry Kose, who was the first black judge in the Gold Coast, to actually, meet with some of these local leaders to really find out what the people actually want. So that led to the 1951 Constitution, okay? And the Constitution's name, as you know, was the Kose Constitution, obviously because it was headed by Henry Kose. So there were three things that were enshrined in the Constitution, and these included an elected legislative assembly, internal self-government, and also the position of leader of government business. So these three things were what the people actually wanted, according to Henry Kuse and the leaders who met. So it's 1951 and there is an election held. Now remember, Kwame Nkrumah is still in prison, but CPP as a party was still running. So after the election, CPP wins heavily. Out of the 38 seats that were being, publicly voted on for slots in the Legislative Assembly, CPP comes out with 34, right? And this gives the British no choice than to release Kwame Nkrumah also from prison, and Kwame Nkrumah becomes the leader of government business. And now in 1954, there's a new election that's held, and in this election, remember that there was only 38 seats that were voted on publicly, right? It had increased from 38 to 104. And now in this 104 seats, the CPP come out with 71, and that was a dominant win from the CPP. So with that win, we were able to make a lot of changes that the people actually wanted in Gold Coast. And this led to, again, another election that was held in 1956. And in that election, CPP comes out with close the number they had in 54, which was 71. They lost just one seat. Now, this made it very obvious that the people wanted change. So during the year of 1956, since CPP had dominant win in the Legislative Assembly, they made a lot of pleas to the British that they wanted independence, they wanted self-government. And after the election, the British didn't have any choice because the numbers were really telling, right, what the people actually wanted. So a letter was sent to the Queen, she signed it, and then brought it back to the Gold Coast, and it was handed over to Dr. Kwame Nkrumah. Now, Kwame Nkrumah decided to change the name Gold Coast, which was given by our colonial masters, to Ghana. And Ghana wasn't really a name that was found within the region of Gold Coast, right? He took that name from the powerful empire, which is now present-day Mali, okay, the old Ghana Empire. And the name, I think, is said to mean warrior chief. I don't really remember that, but you can check that out. So midnight, 6th of March 1957, the Union Jack flag was lowered and that of Ghana was hoisted.
There is a new African in the world. That new African is ready to fight his own battle and show that, after all, the black man is capable of managing his own affairs.
So this shows that our independence wasn't really given to us freely, right? But through strife and, a lot of effort, we earned it. And we showed the world that day what freedom really feels like. So if you've been here from the beginning of the video to the end, thank you for your time. Hope I did well in giving you, some insights on how we gain independence. And yeah, I'll catch you in the next video.